with allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the moment of silence is for Al Bolts, who, part of our VFW 8691 right here in Washingtonville. He was our, I forget the word.
Grand Marshal.
I'm sorry?
Grand Marshal.
Thank you. He was the Grand Marshal of our Memorial Day Parade, and he passed away the day before yesterday. So just some thoughts about Al. Thank you very much. And maybe just one thing before we get started, if everybody wouldn't mind just wishing Christine a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody. Couldn't
Just for
ask
the
for a
record.
better place to spend it with everybody.
It ain't cheap, I know, but let's get it in there. So, all right, I guess we'll start off with the continuation of the public hearing. We'll take some public comment, and then we'll be potentially closing the public hearing, and then we'll have notes and so forth from questions that were asked at previous meetings. So with that, if any, at this point, just reopening the public hearing for the comprehensive plan and zoning. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. If you could just give us, obviously, your name.
Sure.
I think we know who you are.
Charles Gottlieb. I'm Land Use Counsel at Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna for Barboda Realty and Oro Chemicals. I emailed everyone a comment letter, and I have hard copies if you'd like me to pass them out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So again, Charles Gottlieb with Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna, Barboda Realty LLC, Oro Chemicals is the fragrance manufacturer here in the village of Washingtonville. Baroda owns and occupies 11 Hollick Street, 7 Nicole Street, and 2 Locust Street. There are, as you know, existing manufacturing facilities on 2 of those parcels for the manufacturing operations of Oro Chemicals. On the property that is at 2 Locust Street, it's currently vacant. There is a pending planning board application for an expansion of the manufacturing use on that vacant, somewhat vacant but disturbed portion of the project site. That was stopped by the moratorium. And the comments that I'm going to have this evening are geared towards how the zoning amendments are essentially going to kill that expansion project. So we would request you digest our comments. If you're able to make some slight tweaks to the zoning amendments, just to ensure that an existing use in the village, an employer within the village, a significant taxpayer within the village is allowed to operate on its property. So the expansion project, and I have enclosed the site plans to the submission from the last time we were before the planning board. It's 2 25,000 square foot storage buildings to store materials, product, and so forth for the Oro Chemicals operation. Again, stopped by the moratorium, likely killed by the zoning amendments. Generally, the theme of the comments we have after a review of the zoning amendments is that generally it's going to result in vast nonconformities throughout the village, specifically on the project site. So you have all these existing buildings in the village. Now we have new zoning. It's going to result in a lot of properties being non-conforming, which is going to be a big burden on the village. It's also going to be a big burden on the Zoning Board of Appeals. You're going to see significant applications being sent to your zoning board of appeals for area variances and non-conforming use determinations. That's something the village should prepare for. It's really not the intent of zoning. The intent of zoning is to allow for existing uses to proceed, but that's likely gonna be the practicality of it. There's also a threat that the zoning amendments could result in an unconstitutional taking of land, and I'll get into that a little bit here. The project site is an existing industrial building within the existing industrial zoning district. It's now going to be in the light office industrial zoning district if the amendments are approved. Within the LOI zoning district, light industrial uses are permitted by a special use permit. Now, the definition of light industrial that this board has set forth is going to result in a lot of confusion. Mainly, and I really think this board should take a look at the definition of light industrial or expand the industrial uses in your industrial zoning district. As proposed, the definition reads, a use engaged in the manufacture predominantly from previously prepared components or materials of finished products or parts, including fabrication, assembly, packaging, and incidental storage and distribution of such uses, but excluding basic industrial processing. So that definition is actually the definition of a light manufacturing use, and not really an industrial use. So if you look at our project operations, through a chemical process, we're creating food and flavor fragrances. That doesn't meet the definition of this. So if these zoning amendments are adopted, there's a very good chance that our project and all the investments made by Oro Chemicals into the village is going to become a non-conforming use, unable to expand its operations. Let's see. Now, New York State Village Law, again, this is going to create a nonconformity. New York State Village Law 7-704 requires that any changes to your zoning code have to be consistent with the existing neighborhood, as well as it needs to think about the conservation of property values. Here we have an industrial area where there are existing industrial uses, and we're clamping down on those industrial uses and actually saying they're not permitted anymore. So that's not consistent with the neighborhood. Also, it's going to lower our clients' property values and the marketability of Oro Chemicals, given that they've become a non-conforming use if the zoning amendments are passed. Moving on to another section of the zoning amendments, and a lot of municipalities have this one. It's net lot area versus gross floor area. So in net lot area, the village is proposing to, let's say you have an acre, but a half of your acre is floodplains. So that means we can't use that half of your acre to calculate your net lot area. That's what's proposed in the zoning amendments now. But as you know, a lot of this village is in a FEMA floodplain, whether it's the 100-year floodplain or otherwise, including most of the project site where Oro Chemicals is on. And I attached some FEMA mapping to my letter. Now, because most of the project site is within the floodplain, most of the village is in the floodplain, if we don't allow those lands to be calculated to net lot area, we're gonna lose development rights and potentially make the project site and certain properties in the village unable to be developed. That could potentially result in a taking, an unconstitutional taking of land. The zoning code does say we could get area variances for this. I guarantee you, when the zoning amendments are passed, your zoning board of appeals is going to be flooded with applications, no pun intended. This section of the code is also contrary because you have, on one hand, we're not counting floodplains as developable land, and on the other hand, in proposed 315-22C, we're saying, oh, but if you get a permit, you can build on a floodplain. So if we can build in a floodplain for FEMA regulations, why can't floodplains be counted towards our lot area? So those two provisions appear to be inconsistent. Moving on to parking requirements, and this is, again, a lot of things a lot of municipalities struggle with. For industrial uses, you're proposing one space per 500 square feet of building area. That is a significant amount of off-street parking that's gonna result in a significant amount of unnecessary impervious surfaces. If we think about a 50,000 square foot building area like the project proposes, that would require 100 off-street parking spaces. But not all industrial uses are heavy parking uses. These industrial uses are not open to the public, so you don't have customers coming into the industrial use, they're always private. And industrial uses have large-scale storage areas. And large-scale storage areas don't necessarily equate to more employees that are in need of parking. So my suggestion would be, let the planning board make the ultimate decision on how many parking spaces are needed. The planning board is the board best suited to say, here's our project, these are our operations of our project, this is how many parking spaces we need, as opposed to just a blanket requirement for all industrial uses. Again, it's a way to conserve the environment as well, because you don't want to have asphalt where we don't need it. We had comments in our letter about the industrial use special use permit standards. One requires that all storage be within an enclosed building. Sometimes you can have proper screening through fencing and other architectural enhancements and landscaping enhancements, rather than a fully enclosed building that might be more of a visual impact. There are also comments in the zoning amendments about, and it's unclear, so you should take another look at it, the planning board's ability to regulate hours of operation. I added a case in my letter. New York cases are very clear that municipalities cannot regulate internal business operations. Your jurisdiction is site plan, land use, and development, not how and when private companies run their businesses. So we just ask you, and certainly defer to your counsel on that one. My last point is, and I'm sure I think many of you know, the project site has 2 existing active wells on the project location. Right now, those are used by a water supply company in some respects for the transfer of water and the production of water. The zoning amendments are a little unclear as to how that use might be transferred into the future. There is a definition of public utility companies that I think would encompass it, or unmanned structures that are public utility companies. And I know there have been discussions with the village about utilizing these wells for municipal purposes. It appears that the zoning amendments are seeking to box our client into providing those wells for municipal services, requiring them to be a public utility for municipal purposes. So that all goes hand in hand with wanting some broader industrial uses in the industrial zoning district, including maybe a private water supply company, other industrial uses, and some more defined terms for those industrial uses. Thank you for your time. I know you guys put a lot of work into the zoning amendments, so thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments and time. Is there any other comments from the audience? Okay. Yes?
I have comments about,
Just name it, name.
Pat Mitchell at 10 York Place. I have comments about him and other things. We have the building over here next to people. We put 2 warehouses up. We have a big pollution exposure. It's gonna get worse. We need to know from the insurance point of view what they're gonna exclude. If you have pollution policy, there's about 12 to 15 exclusions right off the bat where there's no coverage. If we have an explosion and these poor people around us, as well as we're close by, we're gonna have problems. That's not a healthy situation. That is one of the worst things I've heard lately. It's putting people's lives in danger. We're gonna need 50 million to 100 million as a first layer for their liability. And if you think of kidding, he should get the insurance policies for us to look at.
Okay,
Thank you.
Was there a second part? You said 2.
Was there anything else, Pat?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Is there any comments from anybody else? Paul?
This is just on a comp plan, right?
Yes.
Yes,
On the comp plan. Okay, so on the
Zoning.
comp plan,
comp and
Comp
zoning,
and
it's
zoning.
just,
comp and zoning, yeah. I think that was a great presentation by the attorney, and I think it brought to light a number of things that we talked about the wells. And Oral Chemical has been an asset to this community. They brought a lot of money into this community. He's been very generous with this community since he's been here. It's, you know, to hear them being denied the ability to perform, to build, to work, to expand, it's really sad. That's one thing. But they've been great in this village. Auto repair, the non-conforming, and this goes to my email. In the downtown zone, any auto repair, I'm told, is gonna be non-conforming. And it's, if it ceases operation or is abandoned for a prescribed period of time, they can't continue. So, but we don't say what the prescribed period of time is. I mean, for instance, if we had another Irene, God forbid, or every one of those places, Johnny's Mobile and South Street Auto Body, they were all flooded, so they might be shut down for a long time. Do we make any recommendations or consideration for that? Would that be a prescribed period of time? It might be a year, it might be a year and a half. You know, if they got hit with a flood again. I'm concerned with that. And I don't understand the difference. Like I said in my email, what is the difference if we make quote-unquote major changes now or quote-unquote significant revisions after adoption? Wouldn't it go back to the county? Wouldn't it go back for review either way? I mean, we pretty much, that tells me that we could submit a blank page with Washingtonville's letterhead on it and then just fill in the blanks after it's adopted. I think that's, I understand why you wanna have it adopted tonight, but there's a lot of questions. And I had asked about on South Street, the junkyard. Now you tell me that junkyards are not permitted. So that junkyard that's there is gonna be removed? Is that what it's gonna be? I don't know. That's the implication that I got. And I don't understand how the short-term rental restriction will mesh with the local law that we already have, local law 6 of 23. We have a local law that defines short-term rentals and regulates it, and now we're gonna say, well, we can't have it. So do we have to abandon that law, local law? That's it.
thank you.
There's more, but. I said there's more, but there's so much in that thing that's questionable.
Well, you're right, there's a lot of information in there. And everybody can kind of look at it differently or bring up a question, but, you know, at some point, this process has to come to an end, which only means the process ends. Doesn't mean that the conversations don't continue, doesn't mean that there'll be amendments along the way, because this is an evolving evolution. It doesn't become something that is unchangeable. So our conversation, like 3 hours ago, we just received this information. So it's gonna take, we need to digest it, and we'll have those conversations. We'll have that dialogue. But otherwise, this is a conversation that would probably go on for the next 15, 20 years. But it has to come to an end so that we can draw the line and then continue conversations. Michael?
Mike Graziano, 3 Lark Street. I think personally, unless you're surrounded by it, you know, it doesn't affect you, but I see what's going on around our village, and I think the more regulation we have, I never believed in like having government regulate things and stuff. But what I see going on, even around where I live, those people that have to look at that building, like she was saying and stuff, and the residents around that building, to expand the industrial complex down there, I don't agree with it. I would just assume if they wanna expand, go to a place that's more appropriate, just like they did with Orange County Bus or Orange County Transport, where they went out to Tets out in Middletown. It's a more appropriate place. It's not an appropriate place right here in our village like this. It's not the correct setting for that. But as far as regulations, I think we need to have more. I don't think people should be able to park their cars in their lawns. I don't think there should be more than 10 people in a house, unless of course it's a large family, which is fine. But I don't think there should be multiple families and single-family homes, and I see that all the time. I'm seeing it right where I live, and I'm really not happy about it. We had them parking a 25-foot trailer and living on the street, and that lasted 2 days before, thankfully, our police department got involved and addressed that situation. But these regulations are required in this village. He talked about, not housing equipment inside of a garage or something. They could put fencing or some other thing. There's no fencing, there's no shrubs, there's no nothing. It's just, you go out by Hudson Road and you see total concrete. That place is a disaster the way that looks. Now, I'm hoping, once they put those 2 buildings up, they'll start housing that stuff inside there. But I think more regulation is better. And I even said to somebody today, I had a conversation, sometimes we have to give up some of our freedoms to get some control around here. And I hope the board sticks with their plan and sticks with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenny?
Vinnie Lang, 9 Plymouth Rock Court.
Say that again, sorry.
Vinnie Lang, 9 Plymouth Rock Court. Are we gonna be getting answers to the questions from the last 3 meetings after it closes, or?
No, well, I will give some answers. I will give responses to some of the questions that were asked prior to this evening. Obviously, we're not gonna address questions that were asked this evening. We haven't had a chance to discuss.
So you're gonna discuss after the closure of the public hearing, or is the public hearing gonna stay open and you guys are gonna discuss and come back and close? How does that work?
The public hearing will be closed. And then from these questions that we get from the transcriptions, that's been transcribed, at the next meeting, we'll come back with answers to the questions that were asked.
Currently, is there any changes gonna be happening to the comp plan as is today?
Yes,
There will be changes.
there are a couple of revisions.
Can we get those
Yes.
before it closes?
Yeah,
Well, not before.
Before
the
adoption.
hearing closes.
That's,
Well-
given the 2 that are up, it's fine to disclose them now,
Okay.
especially given that one is near and dear to Vinnie's heart.
the 2.
Well, the 2 that we were going to revise, I was gonna start responding to some of the comments. One of them is from a comment. I'll start there then. It
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
regarding the RVs.
Okay.
Okay. So the question was the length of the RV and it being permitted in a driveway. So currently, the new zoning would require a maximum of 35 feet. You discussed possibly 60. So we went to what New York State is, and New York State, and that was with 20 yards back. We are going to revise the language to read whatever New York State maximum regulation is. Currently, that is 45 feet for a motorhome and 48 feet for travel trailers. The maximum combined length for both, the 2-vehicle combo, the tow vehicle and the trailer combined is 65 feet. But while it is parked in a driveway, it should not be hitched. So the maximum height for an RV is currently, as per New York State, 13.5 feet. So 45 feet, the language will not state the amount of feet, it will state as per New York State maximum regulation. In case that changes, we don't have to make revisions. Mike?
Mike Graziano, 3 North Street. Can people live in that trailer like was happening on our street?
No.
Well, that should be a village code.
Okay.
No.
No, you can't live in it.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a village code that says you can't? Can't just say you can't live in it, there's no village code.
No, I understand that. And if it isn't there, then it will be language that would be added.
what was the
Yeah,
second
what
one?
was the second one?
The second one was a small structure that was, in the arrow point,
No,
it was, sorry?
No, go ahead, sorry.
Top
It
of
was-
Brotherhood, top of Brotherhood.
Right.
It's
off
Cartwheel
of-
Court.
off of-
The one I brought to your attention?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Cartwheel Court, the address is 109 and 111 Cartwheel Court. It's
It's at the
clearly,
corner.
yeah,
Yeah.
the building is part of Brookshire condominiums and needs to be in the zone that the
Right.
rest of the
So it
condominiums
was,
are in.
right, it was
and
just,
not-
it was an
It's a
oversight.
Scrivener's error, and
Yeah.
that's getting cleaned up on the zoning map.
Okay.
Those are the two revisions as of now. The rest of the comments that I'm going to read are just questions or concerns that came in over the last two meetings. Some of them were in email. I did respond to those who emailed. Short-term rentals was mentioned. They are going to continue to be prohibited. We need housing for housing. It is not what is in the best interest of the village. I just discussed the RV. There was a resident who had a concern regarding Washingtonville Manor, floods in Washingtonville Manor, and that land being possibly repurposed, and threat of having to relocate. So my response to that is that property is privately owned. However, the zoning is the zoning. In the new codes, it's referred to as two different ways, the MHC and the MFC. Regardless, it's manufactured home community. So if you're looking through there and you see the two different languages there, just know that that is the manufactured home community. If it is sold, it will continue to remain zoned as an MFC. Those uses will continue. But the village does acknowledge that the large parts of that zone are also within a floodplain overlay zoning district, and further expansion of the manufactured housing must avoid land areas that are subject to periodic flooding. Another comment was regarding the auto junkyards and auto repair. Besides it being mentioned tonight, it was from two prior meetings, so I will address that. It was decided that auto repair uses in downtown zone would not be permitted. Therefore, the D zone does not allow auto repair, and nowhere are junkyards permitted. The auto repair use will be allowed to continue and will become a non-conforming use in that zone. If it ceases operation or it is abandoned for a prescribed period of time, it will not be allowed to continue. So you've heard the language before, the pre-existing non-conforming. If it's pre-existing and it no longer conforms, it will remain as is until it ceases. As far as the prescribed period of time, Bonnie, I don't know if there's
I
any.
wanna say it's 1 year, but I don't have my zoning book in front of me right now.
Okay,
I think it's 1 year.
That's typically what it is.
okay. If it changes hands,
And it continues to operate,
So if it changes hands, it could stay non-conforming? Is that what you said?
It remains non-conforming, but it hasn't been abandoned, so it continues to exist.
there was another comment or question regarding a conflict between the attorney and myself regarding major revisions to the comp and the zoning plan. That on June 2nd, the plan could not be adopted and the process would be extended. It was mentioned that I had stated that there wouldn't be an issue adopting the plan on June 2nd and then making changes. The question was that it seemed that there was a conflict between the attorney's opinion and mine. There was not a conflict, both were correct. So what was being said was that if we decide to make revisions, we can do so after the adoption of the comp and the zoning. So, if we made those changes prior to the adoption, the entire plan would have to go back to the county, hence delaying the entire process. However, if we adopt, then only those changes would be presented at a public hearing, and only those changes would then go back to the county, not delaying the adoption, if that makes sense.
I think Tom eloquently laid out earlier when addressing Paul, you know, this is a starting point, but
Right,
as things develop,
just like
The-
we've been doing.
the village is always free to change its zoning code as long as it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And
This was a lot of work, you all know that, I know you know that. Nothing's perfect, if not a perfect world, so sometimes something's not an issue till it becomes an issue, right? And that's when changes need to be made, we're evolving. So when that happens and something needs to be revised, we will do that, if it makes sense. Let's see. There were also some comments from a landowner. This is being discussed between the landowner, the village board, and the planner regarding any possible considerations for changes. If changes are made, they will be subject to a public hearing, just as what I mentioned prior. I believe that covered all of the actual questions that were asked. We also received some comments that didn't require responses, they were just comments.
Okay, that's it. Any comments or anything from the board? Any other comments from the audience?
Just Paul Lang, 10 Patriot Lane, just one last thing. Just as you mentioned, this is gonna be adopted tonight regardless. Because you want to avoid the moratorium expiring. That hasn't been said. It sounds like we want to continue to evolve and this and that, but that's why this is being approved tonight. Because of and you said it at the previous meeting.
Well, I didn't say it, what I'm saying is
Okay.
that
It's on video.
we need to move forward. This has been well
Okay.
over 2 years, and if revisions need to be made, we can do so if we feel it's what's in the best interest for the village.
Anything else? Okay. And could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Have a second, please. Any questions, comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. And now we'll just go to our resolutions for,
Public hearing,
I'm sorry?
public hearing for the Sidewalk Cafe, no?
Not
Yes,
yet.
we're
Not yet.
going to that. We're just gonna first do the resolutions. So resolution 250092 is to declare a negative declaration under seeker with respect to the adoption of the village comprehensive plan and zoning. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
Have a second, please? Second from Vernon. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
I would roll call all three of these.
I'm sorry?
Roll call all three of
Roll
these.
call, please. Susan?
Yes.
Vern?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that's passes. Resolution 250093, adopt resolution comprehensive plan for the year of 2025 for the village of Washingtonville. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
I'm sorry, okay, we did it. Done. Have a second, please?
Second.
Vern? Roll call in the vote. Susan?
Yes.
Vern?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And motion passes. Thank you very much. Resolution 250094 is to adopt the Village of Washingtonville draft zoning law, local law number 2 of the year 2025, subject to the 2 changes discussed previously by trustee Jack Caruso regarding the trailers and the Brookshire map layout to include Cartwheel Court. Have a motion, please.
Motion.
Have a second? Second, Steve. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call. Susan?
Yes.
Vern?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't think you voted.
Yes, I'm all three. Apologies.
Okay.
Supermajority. Okay. So now we'll jump back to a motion to open the public hearing on local law amending chapter 260 of the village code, streets and sidewalks, and the sidewalk cafe. Have a motion, please.
Motion to open.
Vernon on that. Second, please.
Second.
Susan? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so this is the public hearing regarding the sidewalk cafes, and any questions? Paul?
Paul Line, 10 Patriot Lane. The drafting of this local law, and this is just public hearing, so I'll speak, and you don't have to answer, I understand. Local law, the section 206 is not available anywhere to be read.
260?
260, it's not available anywhere to be read. I don't know where it is, but I'll continue on this public hearing. This law, where can I start here? First of all, on the second page, now, and that's why I don't know, because on the second page, on 6B, nothing herein shall affect the village board's ability to issue a special permits for the consumption of liquor under section 109-3 of the village code. Well, the village code I looked at, 109-3 is littering. So I don't know, if that's a misprint, or if that's the new number, or.
It's the new number.
Okay, well then, if that's the new number for that, why did they continue to use section 49, which is the old number for alcohol, later on in the law? Anyway, let me continue. The village, they mention in here, that it can't be wider than the building line, but they don't mention how far out it can go toward the curb. You mentioned that there has to be 4 foot for access to to allow for adequate and safe movements, and, but you don't say that the, may not extend beyond the frontage of the permitted establishment. All right, but it doesn't say how far out to the curb it's gonna go. And unobstructed occupied space must be provided not less than 4 feet across all entrances of the permitted, but it doesn't say how much space the people have to walk on the sidewalk. That's one thing. The other thing was, where it says, nothing herein shall be affected with the village board's ability to issue special permits for the consumption of liquor. Provisions do not apply when a special permit is granted by the board. That's what we're talking. State liquor authority is state law, and I guess maybe the attorney can listen. As part of state law, as part of state laws and regulations, that would supersede public code. Right? And again, okay, you wanna go back? I know you're gonna say you guys did it, but going back to, and I don't know if it was legit doing permits to do liquor at events down at Vern Allen Park, because the state liquor authority's rules would supersede that, especially for a licensee.
Well, the permit-
We can make it more stringent, but we cannot make it less stringent. In the state liquor authority has advisory 2024-1, and this has to do with outdoor, addition to outdoor space to licensed premises and newly enacted ABC. And it says licensees authorized through municipal programs outside of New York City, whether by permit or other written authorization from the municipality, in which the premises is located to use contiguous or non-contiguous outdoor municipal public space to sell, serve food, and who also seek to continue or add sale of alcohol must also comply with the newly enacted ABCL 111-A effective 4/20/24 and obtain authority approval. The license requires an alteration for adding or moving contiguous and/or non-contiguous municipal spaces. So they have to get an alteration to their license if somebody was gonna serve alcohol.
It says that in the law.
It says that, but we can't, I don't believe that we can pass, change our code to allow a permit to sell alcohol above and beyond what the state liquor authority. I would have to check with the state liquor authority on that. If they have
Well,
this
they
law
would, they
saying.
would have to get their license to sell outside.
Outside, but
Right.
you're saying in the law here that nothing shall affect the village board's ability to issue special permits for the consumption of liquor.
Okay, so at the end of that sentence, it would then say something based upon New York State
These are two separate issues,
authority
I think.
and application. Because when we do the
They have
permit,
to,
they would have to show
alter,
that.
they have to alter their licenses, and I wouldn't allow it until the license was altered. I wouldn't, the other thing I mentioned is the distance on the permitted place down to the curb. Is it gonna go all the way to the curb? I don't know,
No,
it doesn't say.
because they need from the curb in, needs to be at least ADA accessible, right, compliant.
I don't know, you tell me, it doesn't say that.
Well, it needs to be
36
changed, that's the reason we're
wide.
having a public hearing.
Okay, that's,
So at the end of the day, comment taken.
well, you shouldn't be talking to me though, right?
What?
I should be just letting you know how I feel, and then you can absorb it
Sure, you can
and answer the
tell
question.
me.
I don't wanna make you, put you guys in a position where you gotta answer.
No, that's fine.
All right.
Come on.
The other thing I had was the fee schedule. It says the fee for a sidewalk cafe shall be set forth by resolution and payable upon approval of the sidewalk cafe permit. Doesn't say what the fee is gonna be, prior to issuance of the sidewalk cafe. There shall be no proration of the fee for permit holders who acquire the sidewalk cafe permits for less than the full permit period. Doesn't say what a permit period is. Is it a month? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Doesn't say what it is. I would say that you should set a fee, because they're probably not gonna have a sidewalk cafe in January, February, March. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but probably not in the snow. And I think that this thing, you should go back and revise this and set a fee in here, maybe $50 a square foot monthly, and I think it should be a monthly fee. It is gonna increase their revenue, and we've talked about this at so many meetings, where we should be increasing our revenue for people using our facilities for business or for entertainment. And again, you'll see right here, you can see on number 4, going back to the changes in the law, operating restrictions, the drinking of alcoholic beverage by a member of the public while a patron of the sidewalk cafe within the confines of the sidewalk shall not be construed to be a violation of any local law prohibiting the consumption of alcohol beverages, all right? State liquor authority laws supersede village code. We can't have a village code. You might be able to do it at Burn Allen when you have a fair there because you're not a licensee, but this is a licensee already. If it's a licensee, they have to conform to the state liquor authority law. That is that, and the other thing, the last thing I had on this is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the week, including holidays and weekends. I know there's residents that live in those apartments on Main Street. I don't know that 10 o'clock at night, you know, people have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to commute. I think it's gonna be a noise issue. I think you're gonna run into a lot of problem with it. If it was, you know, if it was on weekends maybe, but then again, people work on weekends. I don't know, I just think it's gonna be a problem for a number of reasons, in addition to the ones that I mentioned. And if you do decide to go forward with it and pass it, and I don't know if you plan on passing it tonight. I hope you don't. I think that the business should have that upgraded state liquor license before they do anything outside.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll just note two things very quickly. The permit term is specifically set out in subsection D7. It runs from January 1st to December 31st each year. It's explicit in there. And number two, the reason you set it by resolution is so you don't have to adopt a new local law with the entire hearing process just to change the fees. We can just,
Fee schedule's not typically included in anything,
Correct.
just because they fluctuate.
correct.
Put down how, was it once a year fee? It doesn't say, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing, it just says a fee. Is it gonna be a yearly fee, a monthly fee, bi-weekly fee? It doesn't say that, it's not clear.
It's built in there. It says for the permit, and the permit lasts for a year.
Oh, so it is for a year?
Yeah, it's annual.
Yeah, I think that should be reconsidered.
Okay,
Vinnie?
thank you. Vinnie?
Just to piggyback on the fee schedule, the fee should include the square footage that they're gonna be using and charge accordingly per square foot to minimize that footprint in front of that said business. You know, if we got 3 restaurants back to back, like minimum, aesthetically, we're talking about the comp plan, keeping the village aesthetic, making it look good. And we wanna see these businesses just throwing chairs and tables outside on the sidewalk where people should be walking. A public space that the village residents own, that we're just gonna hand over to a business to generate income. Charge them rent. Back to my previous comments from every meeting, we need to generate revenue. And you look at any other sidewalk halfway law, anywhere else, they're charging by square footage, not just one fee for the entire year. Generate money for this village, help the residents out, let's lower taxes and bring more money in. You know, I hate to miss on that revenue on that one. Especially if you charge it by the square foot, maybe the business doesn't need the entire, maybe he'll minimize his footprint and only get half of that frontage, and that way you're not taking up the entire sidewalk. You know, it would decrease the amount of footage, maybe he doesn't wanna pay the money. So that way aesthetically, it doesn't just crowd the whole sidewalk full of, you know, chairs, umbrellas, and tables.
Right.
And it's also at a disadvantage, because we have retail in the downtown village with sidewalks that can't put clothes out there, racks of clothes. This is only entailed to the food restaurants, the food industry down there. And we have retail down there that doesn't have access to their sidewalk. One or the other, you know? Why one and not the other? Why can't the retail use the sidewalk and throw a rack out there?
Well, to be honest with you, they do.
Listen, as a kid working at the soccer shop, the village came to Mr. Martelli and told him to take his racks off the sidewalk, and I remember that as clear as day,
No.
that he couldn't have his clothes out. And I know that there's certain people that do down there,
Right.
but it's a village code, it's on the books, you're not supposed to do it. It's a public sidewalk.
Regardless of what is out there, it's gotta be 18.
Listen, the village, we don't,
36-inch minimum?
listen, we don't enforce anything, it's on the books, it's not supposed to be out there.
Okay.
The building, according to the law, the building inspector is the sole discretion to approve or deny said permit per the law. Maybe the public should have a say in it. Why just the sole building inspector? To increase transparency, allow everybody to have a say, whether they want it or not.
Well, it's for the business.
Yeah, but it's a public sidewalk. I own the sidewalk, I pay taxes
It's
for that
a
sidewalk.
public sidewalk. Just for an example, what you see today is really the main reason that we just want to codify what we're doing,
All right,
so
but
things are safer.
Maybe
So
I don't
you
want
go
it,
to,
maybe I
go
don't
to
want
F
it.
and J, go to
Maybe I don't want a
Guilty
cafe
Pleasures.
on the corner of Main Street, 208 and 94. Maybe I want to keep it aesthetically. Maybe I would voice my opinion saying, I don't want it there. It's a bad spot.
Well, that's why the building inspector would make that determination at the end of the
So
day.
she represents the entire village?
She does.
She's got an opinion. She doesn't represent me, in my
Well,
opinion.
she has an opinion
She's
based
gonna call me up and
upon,
say, hey, Vinny.
One at a
what do you feel
time,
about the
please.
It's
sidewalk
not a
out there?"
personal opinion.
it's not a
Listen,
personal opinion.
For full transparency, put it out to the village and let the village have a public hearing and discuss it at the village board about whether they want it or not.
I think that's a little bit on the micromanaging side of things. We
We're
have
already
to,
micromanaging everything.
we need to let the processes work themselves through at the end of the day. if we did that for every business, we'd be having a public hearing every day to say, can the guy put a table and 2 chairs outside? These sidewalks aren't 15 feet wide. They're, you know, basically what you see today is probably it is really what we're just trying to manage and make sure that everything is done by the compliancy and having the insurance and all that good stuff. That's the main goal here. I don't see anybody other than the people that are currently doing it really probably going into this arena, because it just doesn't make much sense. You know, if they have to get a New York State license for an outside, they maybe don't want to pay that extra fee for their license to take care of 2 tables on the outside. But, you know, there's who do you have really at this point is probably F&J that has a couple of chairs in the front of their building. No other food establishment really is in that arena. So it's minimal at the end of the day. But again, it was something that we thought we didn't have. We contacted a lot of towns, a lot of villages. A lot of people don't even have it. They just let them do what they want. And then we ran into a few that have law that's probably 10 pages long. You know, and then we've been digging into the permit process because, again, it's fees. It's not really something that we want to do by the law. We want it to be a resolution. So I hear you, but I don't know if, you know, the clothing store, what a girl wants, in a clothing situation, that you would be the one to decide, yeah, you can put your clothes out front. I mean, that seems absurd.
Well,
That's me.
We have a code on the books that says you can't. So.
I understand, but my example is, you know, be it a beer or be it clothing, to have a public hearing for residents to decide if this business, you know, that creates an avenue where the businesses are gonna say, you know what, I don't need
Benny,
to
let
be
him
here
finish.
either, I'm gonna move on, because now I'm being dictated by residents that I could either put a clothing rack outside or not put a clothing rack outside. If it meets the requirements, it should be fine. And that's, you know, it's not your heart. You should be thinking with your head, it should be on paper, and that's what they should go by. We want the businesses. We're filled. We have people wanting to come to this village. The last thing we want to do is be so restrictive that we don't want them to put clothing outside. Why not? Good point. So that'll be the next thing to look at. But if they don't survive, we don't survive. And then everybody will be sitting here complaining, why are all the stores empty? We're filled. We have some empty stores up at the Brotherhood. And they've been getting tenants, and they're expensive. So, you know, we're trying to do the best working with everybody to make sure that things are safe, things are compliant, people can walk and get through, and it's been in that mode from the get-go. This is just formalizing it a little bit further.
Mike, you had something?
I just want to say, Mike Graziano, 3 Larch Street, just want to say that these businesses, they're providing a nice service for the residents here. And it's silly to talk about fees. I don't think it's something that should be exorbitant by any means. I think it's ridiculous to suggest that they pay extra for different amounts of square footage. It's ridiculous. They're providing a nice service to the village. They're not making a killing here in our village. They're providing a nice service to us, whether it's a clothing shop that puts stuff out or a flower shop. It looks nice in the village. It's done nicely, and I think we should support them and thank them for what they provide to this village.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be anything other.
Thank you.
I disagree with what he said.
Okay.
All right, it's the cost of doing business. It's public property. The sidewalk is public property. You're increasing their square footage. They're making money on it. The village should make money on it. The residents deserve the money, the revenue. All residents, not just that location, not just that business, residents that pay taxes within this village. And I would hope for full transparency, all these board members whether you directly or family members have direct, if you would have any direct correlation to this law, if it would affect you or your family member that you have either worked or have a family member working in said location that would benefit from this law, that you would abstain from voting on this law itself.
I mean, I have family members that are working at the hook and ladder, but
For full transparency, I would abstain from voting.
I don't see why.
They would benefit from using public property and gaining a revenue from extra seats and extra room, extra square footage on public property. That's why.
If you go that far, then you can't have signs.
Yeah, then I might as well shut down because I know everybody downtown. So what do I do? I
You
mean,
know them. They work there. You have a family member
It's not
working in
ownership.
they don't own the
Not
building.
ownership.
They
They
work
work
there.
there.
And,
Please.
I mean, this
There,
is,
there's a big difference between ownership
Yeah.
with an equity investment and just working there. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with you there.
Full transparency.
So full
Well, there it is, full
transparency, it's out there, doesn't mean.
anybody that wants to know,
abstain.
just ask me. But
Sean?
I don't see a conflict.
Sean Hagerty, 4 Belvoir Drive. Just out of curiosity, how much of the sidewalk, like in my yard, I have a front yard, and the first 5 or 8 feet is town right away. What is the ownership of the sidewalk in front of these establishments? Do they maintain them? Do they clean the snow? Do they sweep them? Do they wash them? Or do we go around doing all that?
They maintain the front of their stores.
Okay. Do they own a piece of that sidewalk, or is it all ours?
Depends on the site, or
So it's all different?
on the survey. But, I mean, generally speaking, if you take a road, right, there's a right-of-way off the shoulders, so normally it's 25 feet, depending on what the deed reads, but from the center of the road to the 25 feet in one direction, 25 feet in the other direction, a total of 50, the village or the town or the state owns the curb and potentially the sidewalk and then a little bit beyond that.
So they may own none of it, just the front of their building and that's it?
Depends on what their survey says.
Yeah. Well, that's all been changed. The whole downtown area's been changed in the last 30 years. They
Sure.
moved the road, they done,
Yeah,
it'd be probably a good thing to put that survey out.
you know, you could certainly take a look at it. And were they changed when the state came through back in late 80s, early 90s? Because if anything, they took parking spaces away. In some cases, the parking
They
or
took
the
all the building
sidewalks are a
away.
little bit wider. But, you know, did DOT come in and resurvey everybody's building and everybody's property to say, now you gained 15 feet?
I don't think the
Who
state
knows?
gives
I
anybody
doubt it.
anything.
No, I doubt it.
But maybe they should put a survey out. It's gotta be out there. They had to rearrange the roads. They took down the original pizza parlor and Chinese restaurant
Sure,
by the library.
yeah.
That all changed.
Yeah.
So it's gotta be somewhere. That's it.
Just for the record, I have the New York Office of the New York State Comptroller's conflict of interest documents here. And recusal is, there's a conflict of interest when you, your spouse, or your children is an owner in the business. It specifically excludes employment only. There has to be some sort of equity interest in it.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, cool. Pat?
Pat Mitchell, 10 York Place. So the sidewalk cafes, of which I have taken hundreds care of, the liquor attorney is the most important piece first. The liquor attorney with the SLA will coordinate approval or non-approval of a license for a sidewalk cafe. There are 25 reasons why you will lose a liquor license. You need the liquor attorney going over the law with you because a lot of things are not approved. A lot are, a lot aren't. Noise can be a problem, you'll lose your license. So every situation is different, and you need to consult with liquor attorneys. They're very good. There's many of them. They know what they're doing with the law. I know in New York, we have a 25 to 35-page agreement with clients that I unfortunately have to go through for the insurance and various things to make sure they're insured properly, and we have to send all of this stuff to Albany. We also have to give the state liquor authority proof of workers' comp and disability paid family leave on everyone, and they will close you down immediately, come to the door with the inspector or the investigator, and close it down and not open you back up again. So there's a lot of factors to go into before a sidewalk cafe gets approved with that establishment. A lot of work.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? Okay, any questions or comments from the village board? Your flavor to keep this open and do some homework on this stuff? Steve, what do you think?
I mean, if we're gonna consider some of the comments that were discussed tonight,
I think it's reasonable to keep it up, open, and discuss it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Keep it open, I think we should announce that it's also open for written comment.
Of course.
Yeah, as normal. Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to accept that we'll keep the public hearing open?
motion to keep it open?
Second?
You don't really
Don't
need
need
to
Yeah,
need a
it's
motion
just
for that, you're
open.
just
We're
keeping it
not
open.
closing it, right?
All right, so we'll just keep it open. Suspend the animation. And if anybody would like to have any kind of written comments, please, either, I guess we can give you email addresses, either Christine or myself. I'm mayor@washingtonville-ny.gov. Okay, great, thank you very much. All right, so now we're on to public comments on agenda items. Anyone have any?
87,
That's all right.
87, the approval of sale of alcohol and fireworks.
Yep.
Are we selling it?
The village? No, just like last year. Vendors.
So are we gonna require documentation from said vendors, each vendor,
Yes.
license, liquor?
Just like last year,
Okay.
Yep.
very similar.
Okay.
It'll be the same format, and it'll be a garden set up, corralled,
Spirit Garden.
spirit garden, and security will be there to make sure, the right age groups are entering.
Resolution 91, the fence for DPW,
Yes.
is there something wrong with the fence that's there or no?
Well, yeah, and I don't know kind of when it all happened, but the sewer plant entry gate was missing, and fencing on the left side as you're going in, there's a couple of poles, but the fencing itself was missing, or is missing.
It just went missing?
I don't know how long it's been gone, but
Yeah, I would say the water truck there, that's my first.
no. I mean,
Absolutely
it's
not,
been,
absolutely not.
no, definitely not.
24,000.
If you watch this guy drive the truck, you could spin it around in your living room. But, and for the DPW side, there was a fence there years ago, it just became inactive, and the other side of where it would connect to, that fence is gone. So what we're trying to do is secure a little bit better on the DPW side and the sewer plant, and then if we continue doing business with these water haulers, then we can have a specific lock just for them, and we're trying to figure out if we can do a mechanical lock if we had multiple vendors, so that we could give everybody their own individual code, so we know who is there at any given point in time. We have the cameras there, we know who's there every minute of every day, and,
Can you check the cameras and see what happened to the fence?
no, I'm telling you, the fence has been in
No,
this
the gate,
condition.
The gate,
The-
you said the piece was missing from the gate?
No, the gate itself into the sewer plant is
Oh, okay.
gone, so, yeah, it's gone. But, no, but we've had a couple of incidents where people are driving, making U-turns and doing some stuff. We're addressing these things. So the cameras are definitely helping, not only there, but at the other locations as well. So, but again, this will just make more secure the sewer plant area and our DPW. So. Any other questions? Sean?
I have 4, and it's, the hydrants repaired, is a reason the sidewalks weren't taken care of? One of them was, two of them have not been.
Yeah, the reason we haven't fixed the sidewalks yet is that we've been waiting for, when we do that, there's actually in front of, what is it, two deck of the first house? There's a pipe that's there that was broken when we opened up the sidewalk area, because that pipe, there's a corrugated pipe that drains into that easement area on the left-hand side. We called 811 Dig. We just called them actually today, we bumped into the guy. They laid off or fired 4 people off their crew, and there's only one guy, and he has over 100 markouts to do. So they need to come and mark it out, because there's frontier lines there and stuff on the ground.
That
So
hydrant
they
was
need
done
to-
about a month ago, so it's
Yeah,
still
it's
taking
been
over.
that long, I know,
Okay.
it's been that long. We're waiting for that to be done so we can fix the pipe, and then we're gonna do all the sidewalks at the same time.
Okay. Then High Grove wells are being tested.
Yeah.
Are they also looking into using the existing building, or what's going on with that? Or are we gonna waste money building a new building?
This is just a pump test to check out the gallonage,
Mhm.
to see if it's still producing what it was doing when it was first tested. And we had that paperwork.
Now, are they deep wells, bedrock wells?
Yes, yeah,
How does that react with sand well water?
with what kind of water?
Sand well, our other wells are sand wells, they're very shallow.
Oh.
They're
you mean
totally
the
different
mixture of it?
makeups.
I'm not aware, I'm not a water guy, I'd have to get
But
that.
I know when they used to open up the wells and use some of the water from, by Aros or Spindler, whatever it was, I would get a high sulfur smell in my water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, just wondering what, that affects your water, will affect the value of your house if you're getting sulfury water. Are they gonna, if they do it, are they gonna purify it, are they gonna straighten it out, what are they gonna do?
For all the water from a municipal system that I've been to meetings or whatever, I've never heard of a municipal system having sulfur. And normally it's.
I used to be able to tell when that opened up, Lenny
Chlorine
Curcio was the
can
mayor at the time.
Get rid of it, but this is a pump test to check out gallonage,
Okay.
and that's where we're waiting for a schedule in July.
The other one is water meters being installed. You said you took the 2 guys that work weekends, Saturdays, to use them to, maybe you weren't at the meeting.
No.
They're using them to install the water meters during the week.
Right?
There's probably a lot of people home on Saturdays, that they could do it on Saturdays also. And also, if they were working Saturdays and they had to pump out the 2 yards at the end, we wouldn't be paying overtime. We could take them off water meter installation and pump out the 2 yards by Burn Allen Park.
We stopped doing that Saturday routine, I think, when we first got into office, because it was really non-productive for those 2 guys.
What would be unproductive about having,
Well-
you have a lot of things going on the weekends.
All right, so in that situation, when that happens, we have the ability to adjust their schedules from a Tuesday to a Saturday,
We probably should do that the whole summer schedule, from the whole summer.
you know?
Every weekend there's something going on, you need guys out working.
Well, we don't have them out there every weekend, and for as far as that pump out is concerned, we'll see where it goes, but
That should be,
once I get the bill, we're gonna be sending it off to DOT, and
Good.
we're gonna ask them to reimburse us for the overtime that was used.
because those yards should have been raised instead of putting 500-gallon buckets in there.
That is such a disaster, I hate to even go down that road. DOT, hydraulics, engineering, there was a problem. And because the project's completed, they think that's, we'll get to it when we get to it. We're trying to stress to them through Assembly and Senate that this is a problem, the project has a snafu, it needs to be fixed.
They should
The
have pumped
water
it.
runs east,
Yeah.
and then when it doesn't obviously run uphill, it makes a left turn onto everybody's property.
They
And-
raised the
and
yards
they're
like they did
mad,
years ago.
We're mad, and we had DOT down there, they have 1 hydrologist, we're waiting for that guy to get here, but in the meantime, I have the videos, I'm gonna send them the bill with the videos, and they can take it and reimburse us for the overtime.
And I think the town was involved in that also, should go after them.
Well, they were, but because they were in charge of the money at the time, because the village didn't do certain things.
Right, Mr. Doral, I sat down with Mr. Geralamo a while ago, and he says, oh, there was no place to pump it, but they could have went under 94 into the development across the street.
Well, that's
into
what
their
we're
drain.
looking at doing. They're saying there's a lot of gas, water, other pipes that would be an elevation issue, but we need to dig into that further.
And the last one is a question, you weren't here for this. Mid-Hudson News said we were in fiscal, what does it say? Restraint for the 25-26 budget year.
Oh, fiscal, yeah.
There was three of us, it was us, Kingston, and Saugerties. We were the middle rated, so
Yeah, we're moderate.
what's our problems? It says we have a cash flow problem.
Well, what's our problem is, the initial problem is what happened in '23.
That's
Right.
4 years ago now, or
Right.
3 years ago.
So, it's 3 years ago, you didn't have any audits, so no information in, no information out. So again, that's why we lost our bond rating. That's why they came at us with, and we asked for it. Because when we got here and that $1.6 million was written in 2 weeks, we knew we weren't gonna be able to make it to the end of the fiscal year. We knew we were broke October. That's why we had to go out and borrow the $4.4 million to at least get us stable, to understand what still needed to be paid. We had indicated that there were bills from 22, 20, and 21 and 20, that were still not paid. We found even a couple from 18 that people, companies came forward, I guess, when they start to hear people were getting reimbursed or getting paid for their whatever. So that's why we're in the moderate. Our audits, as we've discussed with our auditors and our treasurer, I'll say the 2021, 22, there were no financial records, so it was,
That's all
it's a deep
water
hole.
under the bridge. This
It's
is
water under the bridge,
speaking
but
about
that's why you
25,
moderate.
it's speaking about 25, 26. Yeah, you guys didn't submit proper paperwork.
For when?
25,
No, that
26.
was you talking about the article that was written by Blaze or somebody?
It was written April 20th, 2025.
Well, 25, 26, 25 is, we're working on that audit right now. 24, we're expecting to get the financial report potentially tomorrow, but I emailed the accounting firm to find out if we're gonna get it or not. So when we do, that information will be a little bit better than the previous years because there were so many holes in lack of documentation. It was, in the words of PKF, it's almost like an incomplete audit.
But this is
Okay.
the controllers that sent this out, Thomas DiNapoli's office.
Okay?
Oh, I don't
Well,
know,
we
I
didn't
don't
do
know who Blaze
25,
is.
we're just starting that audit right now. So I don't know.
Apparently
I
they're
mean,
ahead of you.
share that with me and I'll reach out to whoever. I mean, as you know, we had a New York State audit, a risk assessment. Thank you. Well, this is when we did the adoption of the budget. There were notations that they were saying that potentially in the water fund and or the sewer fund, that we could have a shortfall, depending on how much money we spend. That was something that they had said.
Right,
That
but you
was their
seem-
opinion.
You seem to be spending like a drunken sailor.
How?
Well, you have a new light or a billboard or something over by the sewer plant. What did that cost us?
19,000, 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's 20 that, did you really need that to tell people to buckle up? If people aren't doing it, give them a ticket. You get more money.
We use it for, we have, as you know, we have a lot of events.
I've seen
Certain
it, you
things
used
that
to
we
get them
do.
from Curious Joe or
Right.
other places, borrow them, yeah.
Yeah, well, we try, but then you get told they're using them. We try New Windsor all the time, they have them. We try the county all the time, but they're always busy. So with all the events and things that we have going on, we felt it was a good investment. Okay?
Yeah. I'd like to see everything get paid down.
Well, it is. It is. I mean, it's on the agenda, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on the deficit stuff.
All right.
You had anything else?
Not on the agenda, no.
Okay. Paul?
Okay, on the agenda and following up with that, and I know Vernon was talking at the last meeting on number 13, camera installation is complete. Burton, did you say that the cameras were paid for with the grant?
The initial cameras that were purchased, yes.
The what?
The initial cameras that were purchased, yes.
Down in McLaughlin Square?
Right, chief, the initial cameras and the poles were covered by that police company, $99,000.
Depends on what camera you're talking about, but the.
Okay. The cameras in McLaughlin Square, was that grant money?
Those two cameras specifically, yes, from the grant.
Okay. But then you said it was just the cameras. Who paid for the installation of the poles?
Nobody. The poles were donated, and we installed them,
So DPW installed
yes.
them. And who paid for the installation of the Goshen lights on them?
Of the wood,
The Goshen lights, the
we did. Oh, the
We did.
decorative.
And we paid the electric too, right?
We paid that,
electric too, we paid for that?
yeah.
Okay, just a question. The other thing that was the hydrants, you said the hydrant heads have been made? They forgot to take the, unless it broke today, Revere, that hydrant's still out.
Correct. Yeah, everyone that we talked about in the past was repaired, and this one came up not working when we did the flushing.
All right, from resolution 77 through resolution 86. If you read each resolution, facility use request, facility use request, facility use request, the only one that's based on, the resolution is based on the receipt of certificate of insurance is the poor Boy Scouts. How come none of the other ones for facility use are based on receipt of a certificate of insurance? Every other facility use request.
But we have it.
We have it right here.
You have it for what? For the jazz band? You have it for,
It was just not noted. The only one that we're missing was the middle school for using our parking lot. We're waiting on their certificate. That's the only one that was open. It wasn't just noted on here that we have or we're in receipt of the COI.
and how does it work when an individual, if I wanted to use like this number 77, to use a facility for a birthday party, do I have to provide insurance also?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
But it doesn't say that. So I guess they have it.
We have it.
We have it? All right, the other thing was, and it's that time of year, number 4, I was hoping number 4 was the quarterly financial report, but I guess it's not. We're due
No,
for,
number
we're
4
due
was
for the quarterly, we're due
Just
for
an
the quarterly.
update on the financial deficit. The next meeting is when we're gonna have an update on the finances.
Next meeting is the finances. All right, the cameras down there, do they have facial recognition software?
Which camera are you talking about?
McLaughlin, the new one we just put up.
I will say that their cameras are good enough that we can see your face.
Do they have facial
So it's
recognition
not
software?
NCIS, but we can see who you are.
Yeah, but do they have facial recognition software?
I'd have to default to the chief. I would say probably not.
It's got some AI in it. I don't know if we should disclose everything.
Yeah,
it
no.
has to do, but it has AI.
Okay. Has AI.
All right.
Okay.
But
See you when you come out of
He
FPJ's.
called over the Greek store the other day.
I couldn't get in there, I couldn't get in.
You came out with 2 Slovakis. I saw that myself.
Was he sitting at the tables outside at the cafe?
Yeah, he was at the cafe.
Those are all picnic
The
tables.
sidewalk's blocked?
Picnic tables down there are all.
Yeah, they are. You can sit there anytime.
Yep.
And the flowers were there from our flower lady shop around the corner. She keeps everybody decorated down there. Does a great job. Any other questions?
One last one before we go on. Vernon Allen Park, are we gonna limit how many food trucks actually go down there? Like this permit right now goes from May through November.
Mhm.
I have another business comes in, wants another food truck there. Are we gonna limit the amount? Why are we doing it such a long period? Maybe we want somebody else down there.
Well, if somebody comes and wants to be down there, we had a number of different vendors that approached us early in the year. We now have reached out to them to say, if you're interested, talk to us and let us know what you're interested in doing. Most of them wanted a long-term stick. Some wanted, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever they wanted to do.
So is that just one fee, back to my revenue thing, is
Yeah.
it just one fee now? Then from May?
We're making, for each vendor, it's $400 a month to start. So the Shake Holly will be starting, and we also have a crepe person, and there's a fish fry person, and a potential ice cream person.
So are we
And-
gonna limit how many, say you got?
Yeah, I think right now for Vern Allen, where they would park would probably 1 or 2 vendors.
And what happens if there's events or baseball games or whatever?
Well, that's what they're there for. They want to be able to sell their products on ice cream and shakes to all the pickleballers and the people at the dog parks and anybody who's using the field, be it passive recreation or baseball practice or whatever. Yeah. And as we mentioned, we talked about Sewell Park as well, so that's, something to just advertise the park, because we want to get the recognition down there, and, have some food trucks down there, potentially an ice cream truck, something that would, be good for the kids, and we're not competing, it'll be food that we're not competing with businesses that are selling their current goods. So. You wanna do mozzarella?
No.
No. All right. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll jump into the announcements, and the discussion, if anything is there. So we had the Memorial Day Parade, we had 31 participants, the day went really well. The Grand Marshal was actually thrilled, and be driven around by his best buddy Fred. But it was a real good event, had some good positive feedback from different individuals. And we, again, would like to thank everybody that attended and all the residents that came out. It was a really nice day. So this past Sunday, they had the Blues Canine Rescue Walk. Their main reason for the fundraiser is that they're donating their money to the Blooming Grove Humane Society. Heard that all went very well as well, and all ends well over there. New York State, we just had the Conference of Mayors Seminar in Lake George area. The classes were really good, more really good conversation with networking with the different other municipalities, cities, and other villages about all their common problems, which are pretty much the same as everybody across the board. We talk about CHIPS, we talk about AIMS, the budget, unfunded mandates, and a lot of things over EMS with a lot of the ambulance corps that are volunteer that are being managed by towns and villages and more rural areas are having a lot of problems with memberships and things like that. But overall, it was a really good conference, and look forward to the next one potentially. I believe it's in the fall. So that was very nice. Just in regarding the financial update, as I mentioned, there'll be a meeting, or at our next meeting, there'll be a presentation from Leslie and Brendan, again, just updating things. So currently, our bonds are going to be needing to be renewed, so we will be paying off the current 2.6 that we had borrowed the last time. Because of our efforts and monies that have been paying off some of this as we go, right now, the final number looks like $1,160,000 is what we're gonna need to borrow. We're looking at doing it over a 5-year term, and at the, what was with interest, it was like 1.36. Thanks for coming, Charlie, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get you water.
Yep, that happens a lot.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
So a rough estimate at the moment is based on the amount of homes and businesses, that total number, we're looking at per year, per family, approximately $147 per year for the next 5 years. So once we're We actually have a conference call tomorrow with Roosevelt and Cross. Those are the folks that will be the bonds, I'll call it the bond sponsor, or will be buying the bonds, so that we'll be able to receive the $1,160,000, and that will go into our coffers to take care of the deficit that we had in the water sewer fund, as well as the A fund, our regular fund that is DPW, Police, Village Hall. So there'll be more to come on that. Is there any updates on water? Do you have any new numbers as far as
We
totals?
have approximately 230 meters already installed.
That's great.
It's kind of cool because now actually we're calling people to let them know they have leaks in their houses.
That's great. And the phone is really starting to ring off the hook, people wanting to get these new meters installed. Because the best advantageous thing for them is that they're able to have a piece of software on their phone, an app, and they know how much water they're using, potentially if they wanted to every 15 minutes. So, like Susan said, we know if there's a running toilet, a broken pipe, because we get an alert. If you have the app on the phone, you'll get an alert as well. And you can set that, an alert to say 10 or 15 gallons or whatever you want to set it at when you're on vacation. If, God forbid, that hits that 10-gallon mark, the alarm goes off, you got something going on in your house. So it's a really good tool. And for the families that were in some cases paying what they felt was a lot of money, and then they got the app, they realized where the money was going, or the water was going, for them to be paying the bills. Like lawns, extra long showers, things that they never realized what was potentially an issue really became
We had a water softener
an issue.
generating.
Yeah, water softeners. So, good stuff there. Excuse me. Just an update on the tree planting downtown. We have, I think, 1 or 2 more trees to put in. And then we're gonna be using some of the pavers that are on, excuse me, Orange County, on Goshen Avenue. There's an area that needs to be redone. We're gonna take those pavers and finish up on the hook and ladder side where there's missing pieces. And there's also by E.J. McLaughlin Square, there's missing pieces. So we're gonna redo that, straighten it all out, make it nice. And then we'll redesign what we're gonna do over by that one little spot by the old Orange County business area. The Kiwanis, the Flags for Heroes, those have already been installed at the Fireman's Park. They'll be doing a presentation, excuse me, June 7th at about 11 o'clock. And then on Tuesday, July 8th, the flags will be taken down. We've already mentioned the high grow volume test of the water. If anybody has any other questions, let me know. We've talked about the hydrant repairs, and we developed one new hydrant issue, which is Revere, which we'll be attacking shortly. Also, Green Light Fiber, we've mentioned these guys before. Their project is to install new fiber optics throughout the village, be it in the ground or be it on poles. They will be starting at Crides Crossing. Date to be announced, and they will be notifying residents in advance of the work being done. They're, like at Crides Crossing, there's no telephone pole, so everything is bored with a machine with an underground, basically conduit, and then they put the fiber through the conduits, and there'll be little, what they call manholes along the street. And then if somebody wants their service, you call them up and they'll run a line from that box to your house, and then you're on a new service. And they'll be advertising. I think we had some material on the desk outside in the foyer area, and I think they had pricing starting at about $55 a month for a fiber connection. So, obviously more to come on that. We'll keep you updated as they're installing their things over there. Let's see. Orange County Department of Health wastewater treatment plant, we had an inspection there a little over 30 days ago. It was completed, no major issues. Some painting, some cleaning, a lot of that stuff has already been in progress and completed. So everything is good with the Orange County Department of Health. Spindler Wells, we did do what they call a Part 5 test, which is very detailed on everything you could think of with testing water. And we wanted to do that before we would pursue going after the Spindler Wells, working with them and seeing what kind of negotiations we could work out to use those wells. But that test came out okay, so we're gonna continue and contact Knights of Columbus as well as Aurora Chemical to start having conversations about piping and agreements and things that we could use that water in case of an emergency, and so forth. And we also, I think we did mention at a previous meeting that Orange County Department of Health has already given us the green light to use those wells for emergency purposes only, as we are currently. We did talk about the camera installations for EJ and the Public Works and Memorial Park. So we have 8 cameras currently installed, and we will be looking at other areas like the waterworks down at the West Main Street. And where else we were talking?
Waterford, or Woodfield Park, Brown Park,
Right,
and so municipal park lot.
municipal parking lot, right? So that is all kind of in the works and thinking and planning for the wiring and so forth. For tomorrow, the DMV will be here from 10 to 12 and 1 to 3 as usual. They'll be parked in the back side lot. And please come and take care of any of those needs. They'll do everything but written examinations.
Expect lines.
Yeah, there were some really heavy lines, that's why, and they actually had some problems with aggressive people during the month of April, because that was the month just before where you needed to have that enhanced license, and we had a lot of people. And I would recommend, if you don't know, go on their website and look at the DMV site, because a lot of the things for the enhanced license are all original documents. They don't take copies of anything at the end of the day, but read it, because I think that's the reason people were really upset. They were waiting online for an hour or whatever, and they get up there and they were told, no can do. So make sure you check the website before you go there, if that's the enhanced license you're looking for. Okay? Anything from the board, anything else?
I have one announcement.
What's that?
I have one announcement. I don't feel bad now that Charles has left.
Oh,
So the day after the last meeting, the Orange County Supreme Court dismissed 61 East Main's lawsuit against the city, against the village. The federal lawsuit is still active. I'm not the attorney for that, but hopefully it bodes well. And they can always appeal, and we'll deal with that when the time comes.
thank you very much. All right. Any other things you'd like to say? All right, we'll start with the resolutions. Resolution 2575 to reschedule the public hearing date regarding the local law entitled irrigation meters. Allowance of the property to have a separate water meter for the purposes of irrigation to be held on Monday, June 16th at 7 p.m. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Susan Byrne on the second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2576 to approve the revised facility use form to include kiosk vendors. Have a motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2577 to approve a facility use request form for Kerry Finlay for a birthday party to be held on Friday, June 6th at Woodfield Skateboard from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Run date would be Monday, June 9th. Have a motion?
Motion.
Steve, second. Susan. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2578 to approve facility use request form for Asthmatic Pride Day to be held at Veterans Memorial Parking Lot on Saturday, June 7th from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Have a motion, please.
Motion.
Motion from Steve. Have a second.
Second.
Vernon. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Resolution 2579 to approve facility use request form for the Washingtonville Middle School Jazz Band for a concert in the park at Fireman's Memorial on Thursday, June 12th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2580 to approve a facilities use request form for Troop 16 Blooming Grove Boy Scouts for a car wash to be held on Saturday, June 14th at Veterans Memorial Lot from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Said resolution is based upon receipt of the certificate of insurance. Have a motion?
Motion.
Steve, second, will be Vernon. Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes. Resolution 2581 to approve facility use request form for Washingtonville High School class of 2028 fundraiser pet pageant show to be held on Saturday, June 14th at L. Vernon Park from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Motion?
Motion.
Donna, second? Steve? Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Resolution 2582 to approve a facilities use request form for the American Red Cross blood drive to be held at the Village Hall on Monday, June 23rd from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Motion.
Motion.
Vern, second.
Second.
Steve? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2583 to approve a facility use request form, Washingtonville Middle School, for overflow parking for the 8th grade graduation ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park to be held Tuesday, June 24th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Rain date Wednesday, June 25th. And that one is also subject to receiving insurance. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Steve, Vern, and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2584 to approve public assembly permit to Washingtonville Event Committee for Food, Fire, and Fun Festival to be held at L. Vernon Park on Saturday, July 5th from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Have a motion, please? Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon.
Did it say
Questions, comments?
fireworks?
Pardon?
Fireworks?
Fireworks.
Yes.
It says fire.
No, that's.
Well, that's just the
That's
name of the
the name of
event. Food, Fire, and Fun, and fireworks. You were all excited here for the fireworks, that's good. Sit in the front. All right, we have a first and a second. Any other questions,
Can I make
comments?
a comment?
Sure.
That I asked that they, although the permit is to 11, that they do their best to get out of there as promptly as possible, because it is partially a residential neighborhood in the area, and quiet hours are starting at that time.
Well, the food trucks leave as soon as it's over, we
I
just keep that.
can't.
Yeah, they
Food
leave
trucks
soon.
leave as soon as it's over, we just put that time in case there's a rain delay, or we're cleaning up garbage off the field, but otherwise the food trucks dissipate, yeah.
I'm just adding the comment
No,
for
I
public
just-
record.
mhm.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2585 to approve the facilities request form, Washingtonville High School varsity swim team for a car wash to be held Sunday, September 14th at Veterans Memorial Lot from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Said resolution is based upon receipt of certificate of insurance. Motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Passes 5-0. Resolution 2586 to approve facility use request form to the Shake Smoothie LLC for Shaker Smoothie mobile truck at Val Allen Park from May through November 2025 in the morning and the afternoon hours. Have a motion?
Motion.
Donna, second.
Second.
Steve, questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes.
No, one no,
You didn't say so.
you didn't give me the opportunity.
Anybody in favor? Okay, motion passes 4-1. Susan, okay. Resolution 2587 to approve the sale of alcohol at the village fireworks display on Saturday, July 5th at Vernon Allen Park. Motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution 2588 to declare surplus and at no value to the Village of Washingtonville 4 Police Department vehicle Panasonic laptop computers. Motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon, any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2589 to authorize Mayor DeVinco to sign a lease agreement with Lee Financial for 2 Konica Minolta photocopy machines for the village clerk's office and the village court clerk for the period of 63 months, cost per copy program at a cost of $466 per month. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second? Steve? Any questions or comments? I would like to.
I have a question on that. Is that $460 a month, $66 a month per machine, or both of them?
The total.
Total, both.
Or both, okay.
Yes. And just to add on, I'd just like to thank Vernon for extensive research on these particular copiers and looking at other particular vendors that are out there. Just 99% of the time, unless it's state bid, we're always out trying to look for the best price that we can find. Okay. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2590 to authorize budget transfers and amendments as necessary to effect the transfer of funds and to pay village warrants. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon, any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Resolution 2591 to approve installation of a fence for the Department of Public Works from Cooper's Custom Fence, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $24,500. Have a motion?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
Vernon, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thanks. All right, so 92, 93, 94 taken care of. Resolution 2595, authorize Mayor DeVinco and Deputy Mayor Presser to sign the MOA between the Village of Washingtonville and the full-time police department and the police dispatcher union. Have a motion, please?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Resolution 2596 to adopt law.
Nope.
Oh, never mind.
Nope.
Table, thank you. 2596 is tabled. And now we're at the portion for public comment on agenda items. Michael?
Mike Garzale, 3 North Street. Just have one question. When I received my water bill, there was a little information packet or a page in there, and it said that the residents are responsible for replacement of the curb box if it's bad. I've never heard of that. I always thought that you pay for a connection, and that is on the village's side, and you take off from that curb box. I don't think that should be part of a resident's responsibility. You should be responsible for that line going to your house, but the curb box should be on the village.
Yeah, well, the way the law is written currently, we're responsible from the main to the curb box. The resident is responsible from the curb box to the meter.
So the curb box is your responsibility?
No.
No, it's yours.
Yours.
It's yours, according to the law.
Is that something new?
No, and if you look at surrounding municipalities,
Yeah, I was going to check on that.
it's, believe it or not, that graphic in there, I borrowed from another municipality, and most of them have the curb box as the property owner's responsibility.
So if that goes bad, we have to get the village, and we have to have them shut the main off?
No,
No.
no, plumbers have ways they can
Oh, I
freeze the
know
pipe,
they
or
can
they
do
can
that.
crimp it and change it
Yeah, I
that
know.
way.
I know that as well, yeah.
We have assisted many times, be it if the curb box is bad, shutting off the main if it came down to that.
Right.
But then normally you're gonna have two valves on either side of your meter in your basement.
What does
So-
something like that cost to replace? Any ideas since you guys have?
The curb box,
Yeah.
Money.
$2,500.
it depends on how deep
I
it
get it.
is, if they have to jet back it out, or they can just like dig it out, that's gonna depend on the cost.
You know, most of it is the excavation of it, depending on the depth. And we usually help locate it at the end of the day with our tools and so forth that we have. But yeah, that's the way it's written. It's been that way for a long, long, long time.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're welcome.
Better start putting my money away in the piggy bank somewhere.
But actually, I should have saved it. People have been getting in the mail, there's a company, if it's legit, they're selling insurance for your water line.
Yeah,
And if you needed to replace it, the insurance would cover it.
yeah,
State Farm has it.
yeah.
Huh?
State Farm has like a
Yeah,
service.
all-
Yeah, do they, State Farm?
all states have that.
So,
I mean, it's-
Yeah, I saw it, I got one the other day. I was
Yeah.
like, huh.
I don't know if it covers that, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the curb box to the house, I would assume, but I mean, if something to be checked out, but
Yeah, yeah.
when they say you're
It's
paying
60
insurance
bucks a
for
month,
it,
I think, is what they're
Yeah.
offering for water.
I mean, in some municipalities, you're from the house out to the road, you know, and then you need a permit and all that stuff because you're gonna be opening the road. That's why we would normally take care of that end of it, you know, as far as the road openings and all that stuff, and curbs and everything else, yeah. Okay. Sean, did you have your hand up?
I did for other questions.
Okay.
What's going on with the fountains in the ponds?
Well, the fountains in the ponds, I've sent like several emails to the company and they have gone unanswered.
Because they weren't
Basically,
running
what
the day he
issue
put them
is
in.
that, I'm sorry?
They weren't running the day he put them in. One of them ran for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll call it the Newcastle pond was running,
Correct.
then that stopped, and then the Memorial Park pond was running, and that just recently stopped. I had a call from resident, first name Jim, on Emerson or Lincoln, to tell me that that one wasn't pumping. So it tripped, it overheated because it's getting weeds in it for some reason. So we're trying to come up with basically a platform that we could put down that it would crush the weeds and so forth, and then have the pump somewhat extended off of that, so that we could then put it back down and it should work. But we're waiting for this guy to call us back because we need some kind of a boat, and we need to know how big the pump is, and trying to get all the details. So we're
I
working
think
on
they
it.
sell what's known as a skirt that goes around them all so that it goes deep
Yeah,
and stops the weeds, but
yeah,
they'll figure out something.
yep, so we're working on that.
You weren't here at the last meeting, they said they got two people that were dumping in the Greenland, two commercial landscapers, I guess they were. Did they get to clean up the mess they left behind, or whoever did it?
Well, that was in the order of, they were summoned to court, and that was, you know, what we asked to be done is that they clean up what they dropped. They were residents. We caught them on the camera. and it
Okay,
was-
so there's long decker, it's gotta be a commercial guy that was dumping the thatch from the lawns.
Yeah, well.
There's hundreds of it there.
If they are, and if someone sees something, then please say something. I mean, we caught this particular individual at the Memorial Park. And he came racing in with a big tarp dragging it along. And facial recognition. We zoomed in, we knew who he was, we knew where he lived, and went to his house, and he was written some summonses, and part of it was for them to clean up what he dropped.
I don't know if that was cleaned up, but Decker, somebody needs to clean that up, that's going right into the streams.
Yeah, we're
And it's
gonna,
it's loaded with
our
probably
guys are gonna go
chemicals.
up to Decker and clean up, you're talking across from Capitol, I'm assuming?
Yes, yeah.
So we're gonna clean that up, and then, you know, we're gonna come up with something to try to find out and catch the people that are doing it.
Isn't there a camera in the woods there? It looks
I
like
can't
there is.
tell you.
Well, you've probably seen my
Tell
face.
myself. It's a secret.
And that was to,
Okay, don't do anything weird.
no, at my age, I gotta do stuff.
There's one there, right?
All right.
Storm drains, they have a big amount of them, and they're probably in worse shape after the storm.
Yeah,
There's two right on Belvoir that are sinking, they're all over the village sinking.
Yeah.
They need to be done. The yellow safety things you were talking about, are they gonna, for the handicap ramps?
Okay,
All over the place. Nobody reports them. The DPW doesn't say there's ones out in the middle of the road it's been ripped off and thrown in the middle of the road. It's been there for a while.
I haven't, that one, I haven't seen any reports on that one.
What is it, Sean?
The yellow, they could be yellow, red, or rust.
The
They're handicapped
stop
grips.
ramps, when you have the,
Oh,
They're
yeah.
damaged all over the place. Some of them are just taken off, thrown in the road. I don't know who does it, but
Really?
DPW drives by. They don't see this.
Where, what road?
Go anywhere in the village and you'll find a bunch of them all over the place. Not all thrown in the roads, but ripped up or damaged.
Okay.
You know, they should see something, say something, write it down. They're driving around here all the time with the chipper and,
when they're up in their trucks, it's hard for them to see down there, I can tell you that.
especially if you got the phone in your face.
They're not supposed to have their phone in their face when they're driving.
Well, the passenger. I'm not talking about the driver. The fountains, storm drains, the outflows. I'm just gonna give you pictures because I've asked you about these a bunch of times. And you've said nothing. That's the way it was looking. This rocks do not belong there. Even where your engineer tells you they belong, they're not even in that place.
Well, those rocks have been there, I think, ever since that thing was built.
No, they haven't been.
I don't know.
Go back and look at some of the old pictures of Van Allen Park. They were never there. They were put there 3.5 years, 4 years ago.
Are these current pictures?
Yeah. 7th day just before the storm. The first one is a while ago.
Yeah.
I pulled a bunch of rocks up and threw them up, so it looks a little better. But the kids do it, and that's what kids do. They throw rocks in water.
Yeah, no,
Everybody likes to splash.
absolutely. Okay.
You know, and then the last ones that show after the storm, you can still see where the water can't go through the pipe because it's blocked on the outside. There's 1.5 feet of rock there. You gotta get rid of the rocks.
Okay. Thank you. I can keep these, or make copies, do you want?
Oh yeah, you want me to sign them?
Please.
They might be worth something sometime.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Nickel here, nickel there, sounds good. Cool. All right. Anything else, Sean?
No, that's it.
Paul?
So where can we read the E code with the correct chapter numbers? Where can we find it? It should be linked on the village website.
Yeah.
The link was there, I believe
Not-
I thought we removed it because of the revisions, but if you Google it,
If I Google it, I come up with section 175 under construction because of the
Right.
moratorium. 175. We're talking about 315, section 315.
I thought we said we were just gonna wait until this gets amended and.
Well, it's been amended.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, you have a public hearing on something that people can't refer to, you know? Section 260, where was it? Can't find it, it's not, it must exist.
No, I mean, the public hearing, we released the draft zoning, that's where all the,
Section 260 is not zoning, section 260 was, the other public hearing that we had. But where can I go to read section chapter 260 of the village code? Or section 315 for that matter, or any other section.
We'll need to get back on that because we know that there were basically 2 books. And the issue is for the attorneys was trying to get the newer codes updated while they were comparing the old codes. And I don't wanna put words in his mouth, but it's a task and a half to try to sort out the green book, I guess at one point, and there's a blue book. So the blue book is supposed to be the newer book, but it doesn't have everything from the green book. So it's just a task beyond a task.
So these chapters do exist, but we just updated them.
It's just a matter of you're looking at the correct one, and this goes back in time and it's just, one of those things that we need to get to.
So when will the new code be there? When? Because when they're adopted, then they're effective, right? So they're in the process of getting uploaded then?
That's a process, that's E-code, it's an entirely different system.
Yeah,
E-code is gonna have to go through and completely revamp everything, which will be a costly process.
I think now that we're kind of through this process of the comp and everything else,
It
this
makes
has
sense.
been like a thorn. We just need to address it.
It makes sense now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't wanna do it right before a huge zoning change, but it
No.
makes a lot of sense
No.
now.
So,
but, yeah, because it is very handy to have an Eco 360, that website.
Yep.
That's what
We
we
just need
relied
to-
on forever.
we just need to put a plan together and go after it.
Especially if you're gonna be changing laws
Sure,
going forward,
Yeah.
we need something to refer to.
we all do. We use it every day as well.
Continue?
Oh, yeah, please.
The third meeting, I'm talking about this, and I don't know if Steve followed up on it, that patch of,
I told them when they do it after this, carnival, to take care of that also.
that's what they said last year. I think it should be tested, but to see if anything's emanating from the ground there.
I was told it was because of the heat.
No, it was oil. Last year it was oil. We saw it was oil. You saw it, you had to see it.
I had the building inspector look into it.
We
It's
can,
oil.
we can certainly test it. They did come out, the Knights did come out with topsoil. They dug up the stuff that was dead, they put down new topsoil, and they reseeded.
That was last year.
And it- Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
it didn't grow.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. There's a reason why that grass is not growing there. Something toxic is in that little patch there. And I don't wanna be, kids running around there, what's coming out of the ground there, I don't know.
Yeah, we can test the dirt. Talk to
Did you talk to Tom? Tom wasn't here last time, a couple of times, about the pickleball courts, the water, standing water? Are we gonna do anything for that?
I played on that court when it was wet. It's the back of the court.
The first new
Third-
court.
The third one in, I think.
Actually, it's the
Yeah,
fourth
right
one. You had three
Yeah, there's a
original.
low spot in there, and I don't think there's anything we can do with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but we paid for that.
Who
Paid
did the
extra.
paving?
Huh?
Who did the paving? Because I have the stuff from the first courts, I'm not sure who did it, but there was a 2-year guarantee on levelness. I don't have any information from the second set of courts. Whoever did it didn't level it. You
Obviously.
could look right at
Yeah,
the difference in the quality of the first set
right.
versus the quality of the second paving.
Did you guys give them a call after?
No, they
No.
just talked about it.
And that could be a claim, it's an uneven pavement, people are running, whatever, I don't know. I don't play pickleball, but
A lot of people do.
a lot of people do, and they look like yeah, I know, but I don't want them to, go into a dip in the pavement, lose their balance. The other thing, look at this agenda that we had here tonight. It was great, it was agenda, announcements, discussions, everything was, we knew what was gonna happen at this meeting tonight. There's two things, actually. I don't see any minutes posted on the village website for any village board meetings this year so far. I see agendas, but no minutes.
There should be.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are.
I'll look into it and see, because I
Well-
know they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had it open, I'll open it up again, but I don't see any, I
We
don't
might
see.
be behind
The
a
other thing
couple
is-
there.
As compared to our
I'll
agenda,
speak to him.
the Board of Ethics Committee that meets, they put out a generic agenda.
Yes, I know.
And the lawyer told me that they do that, but this means nothing, this is just a piece of paper.
But they have been doing the same, it's going through the disclosure forms.
That's what they should put on the agenda then, that they're gonna be discussing disclosure forms. And then eliminate everything else. So people can look at it and say, oh, that's what's happening tonight, okay, I'm not gonna go, or I'm gonna go, or whatever. Because if somebody comes, and that's all they're doing, they have to go into executive session. So, to save people a time, this is it, this is the same agenda they've had every meeting, and it doesn't tell you anything. And maybe people would want to,
What does the agenda say, Paul?
The agenda says call to order attendance, approval of minutes, annual disclosure forms, conflict disclosure forms, proposed ethics code changes, procedures, rules, and regulations, new business, old business, executive session, return to public session, motion adjourned.
But that is what's
But if
being,
that's what
that
you're
is what's
discussing.
being
But that's not what
discussed
they're
in the
doing.
meeting, though. It is.
Did they, so they did make changes to the proposed ethics code changes?
The discussions,
They did?
discussions,
Proposed ethics code changes? And again, if you go in on the website, there's no minutes for ethics boards meetings.
we had a resignation, the person that was taking the minutes is not,
Well, that's now, but what about up until, from back until January?
they're a work in progress, but they will get up there.
They're working.
No, we gotta get them on. Okay. Anything else? Diane?
Couple of things. Memorial Day Parade, very nice, good job.
Thank you.
Maureen, good job. The flower pots look wonderful, nice bright colors. When you come into the village, it's very appealing. Good job. The last weekend storm,
Mhm.
we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah.
I've seen down by the pickleball courts, that water was over that bridge.
Yep.
It was onto the pickleball courts. My concern is, and I brought it up to Rob Geralman when they did the construction on that bridge over there. There's a historical marker that they said is there. So you have these huge openings on the park side of the bridge, huge, and then it goes under Ahern,
Yep.
and it takes a turn, and it goes into a smaller historical marker. It gets jammed up, it backs everything up, and here comes the flooding again. My question is, who owns that piece of property where the historical marker is?
I have
Is
to
it the
look-
village?
Yeah, have to look at a property map.
But every time there's a storm, we go out and we look at it. Why is it?
Well, we look at,
Go ahead.
I mean, looking at it is one thing. The real question of the day is when they did all of that work for Ahern in '94, why wasn't that
And I've been
Cal
asking,
Bridge addressed during the construction?
I've been asking that question
So-
since they did that construction.
Yeah.
And every storm that comes through, we take pictures, we do everything, but we don't rectify the problem.
I
Then
can't get the hydrologist to come out and take care of a flooding problem that's bothering the residents. You know, it's frustrating at best.
Trust me, I
And
know all about it.
I know exactly what you're saying. We had pictures from Sean one day. There was, debris and some limbs and things. We went down there, we cleaned it out, because it's basically maybe a 24-inch pipe that you're dealing with Ahern that has 3 13-inch pipes or 13-feet pipes,
Thank you.
and then et cetera, et cetera. So we know it's a logjam.
So when did that bridge get fixed? 4 years ago? 5?
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 years by now, yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that. So for 3 or 4 years, I've talked to Rob, I brought it up here at the meeting, it's just continuous. When are we gonna stop kicking it down the can and fix the problem? Because people's homes are getting flooded, as you know that. So why can't we fix the problem when we know what it is?
Because once we find out who owns that property and DOT was involved in it, we'll find out.
When? Do we have a,
Well, I'll email them. It's simple. If you get an answer, listen, it's a road of hell dealing with the people in that organization because it's layers and layers. And again, since that thing was done and the first time that East Main Street residents were flooded, we've been dealing with it. and we've been dealing with the overtime going out, and we've probably been out there 3, 4, maybe 5 times, setting up the pump. The state's way to fix it was to go on each of the 2 end properties there, 189 and probably 191, and put a dry well in their front lawns. And this was supposed to take care of the problem. That water that runs down into their properties is coming from my street, which is 2/10 of a mile down the road, and it flows easterly. And when they raised it,
gets
that's where the
clogged
problem
up.
became.
It
So the
gets
best I can
clogged
tell
up.
you right now is that I will I'll talk to Senator Scoof's office, because he was helping me trying to elevate this thing through DOT, and we will email them again, and we will bring up I'll call it, I think everybody calls it the cow bridge. And we'll bring up that situation of a bottleneck and give me an answer why it wasn't addressed when all that reconstruction work was done.
And last year and the year before that, because it was the 100-year flood, but now we get a flood every year. I mean, we get this torrential rain every year, so it's no longer the 100-year flood.
Well, I'm not aware of anybody that flooded down in that area. If you know of somebody, then let me know. We had some issues on deck. I'm on the fire department, so I think we had maybe 5 basement calls. We had a serious issue over on Decker. Debris, plastic bags, and some type of a flotation device that was vinyl got jammed up, and somebody probably had it in their backyard, or not in their backyard, they put it in the green area, and the rain got it and brought it down, and then it got plastered onto the drain, and from there, the water rose and created lots of damage. So, that was completely unnecessary. If people wouldn't throw their garbage in the green areas and put away, dispose of it properly, we wouldn't have that particular issue happen, because it was a disaster. But I'm not aware of anybody that was flooded due to the cow bridge being an issue. I live not too far from there. I know the water comes up almost to the edge of my cul-de-sac, but it is wetland, and there's a pond back there. So if it was gone, it probably would be helpful, no doubt about it. And the water would get out a little bit faster, and then flood on Gateway's Farm. So,
Just
but I'll call,
a thought.
we'll email,
Put
we'll
2
start the
big
process.
pipes on either side of the historical marker. I mean, if they don't want to remove the historical marker, open up 2 additional sides so that it doesn't get jammed up and the water flows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time and time again, it's ridiculous.
We'll bring it up to their attention. We'll do that, Don.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, Sean brought it up, dumping, okay? So on, between Capitol and Liberty, a lot of dumping going on over there. Across the street from Smith Court, tons of dumping over there. The guys, cut the grass there. Nobody reports that, like Sean says?
Apparently not, because if they did, we would go after the people.
Right, but it's there. I mean, you can't miss it. There's signs there that say
I
no
know, but
dumping.
unless you sit there and you wait for and when you're standing there, obviously they're not gonna come down. So,
Well,
we caught people on Ballard Pond, coming from Clinton, on mowers, tarps, dragging the stuff down
that's
and
a
throwing it
landscaper.
in that area, which actually belongs to Moffett Ridge Condo Association.
I saw
Right,
that.
that's
a-
open land.
That's a
Because that's all
landscaper.
open.
Not
So they
ours.
were dumping and dumping and dumping.
That's a
And then it was
landscaper.
brought to our attention, we found the guy, and we spoke to him. And we only found out about it because the guy who saw it called me and said, the guy wanted to get into a fist fight, and all I said to the guy was, don't dump there, because you shouldn't be. And they had a couple of choice words, and the guy walked away because he didn't want to get into a fight. But this guy was adamant about dumping his leaves, twigs, and other things in the green area that belongs to the HOA.
Right, so his lawn looks beautiful, but we have to look at trash.
Well,
It's
you know, if
just
everybody
lawn
had your
outside.
attitude, you know, it'd be a great place.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you got people that just sometimes don't care and they just wanna get it off their list.
Exactly. So, okay, so if you're leaving Burn Allen Park heading towards Newcastle, on the right-hand side, lamppost came down
Yes.
2 months ago?
Yeah, potentially,
get
between 1 and
replaced?
2 months.
Is
Sorry?
it gonna get replaced?
O&R will take care of that, yes.
Are we
I
getting
don't have a
credit
date
for
from
the light
O&R, but
not
they
being
know that they
lit?
took it away.
Are we gonna get a credit for the light not being
Yes,
lit?
we get credits for lights that aren't lit.
Thank you. I did hear about the fire hydrant, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
saw that it got fixed, thank you.
Well,
At the May 5th meeting, you weren't here,
right.
but at the very end of the meeting, Vinnie asked a question about what's going on with the police contract. And trustee Pressa
What do you
said to
say?
him, read between the lines. Can you tell me what that meant?
I don't remember his name.
You made a gesture also, now that she says that, you did make a gesture.
Okay, what does that mean to you?
I don't know, I don't remember
Anybody?
knowing.
It's on camera.
One, it was very unprofessional. Two, disrespectful. And I think you should apologize to Vinnie for being so disrespectful as you sit on that dais. And maybe, Tom, you should talk to the deputy mayor about being respectful to the residents.
Okay,
I don't
Thank you.
think
I
it's
wasn't
funny.
aware of it.
I don't think it's funny.
and I'll apologize.
You didn't say
Shouldn't
it,
happen.
he did.
Well, it shouldn't happen.
Could you
I get it.
apologize?
I
mean, that was-
apologize, Vinnie.
Excuse me?
He said he apologized.
Oh, okay, I can't hear. Thank you.
And you know the status of the contract, right? You heard that
It
earlier?
was approved, I heard.
Yeah, so we'll be signing some documents tomorrow to push the process forward. And their contract goes to their PBA for a vote. So that's good news there. Part-time police, though, is still open. They've had some issues on their side. They've had let their attorney go, a couple other things internally. But, you know, we're working with them and ready to continue our conversations. Otherwise, everybody else is good. We'll start actually negotiating with DPW this fall. We're asking them for an MOA of their request and so forth by August, because their contract is up to springtime, I think February, March. So we want to have enough lead time to get to it and work through it and and then have the budget ready for it as well. Okay?
I just got an update on the ecos.
Go ahead.
On it.
Sure.
I was just,
How'd that happen?
Bonnie,
Oh.
Chris, you're involved in that. After Bonnie finishes the 2 edits from tonight,
Yeah.
it goes to you. And then you have to include it in the form that goes to the Department of State.
Right.
And once they receive it.
Are you talking about the zoning law?
Filed,
Yeah, it gets filed like any other local law.
okay.
It's just a local
Not
law.
all the other laws though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
talking
two
about the big
separate-
picture of everything.
Everything.
Yeah. We got it. It's on our, it's,
There are more things that have to be done with the neg deck, as it's a type 1 action, but those are specified within the resolution as the things that need to be done.
okay. Sean?
I'd like to make a suggestion to the board that once in a while just take a walk around the village and observe things. Not drive, take a walk.
Have a walking
I do.
meeting.
Like, then you'll probably see what I'm talking about. The yellow ADA things being in the middle of the road, being ripped off from the sidewalk. You know, storm drains falling in. Do you mark them down? You're telling us to do it. So if you're walking around, you must see them. Do you mark them? I don't mean go for an exercise walk, go for an observation walk.
Be a walking meeting in the future.
Steve said he didn't see the bad grass because he never drove that way. I don't go that way. Well, you're supposed to be our fiduciaries. You're supposed to be watching out for us. So that's another bad comment. I don't go that way. It's part of the village. You should be looking at everything.
I do when I drive around.
But you said you didn't drive that way, that's why you didn't see the bad grass but that means you're not going that way. You didn't look. You're not going that way. But you just need to take an observation of what's going on in the village.
That's what we hope people see things and let us know.
DPW drives around, they should be reporting things. Do they report things?
Sometimes.
Yeah, they do. They do.
There seems to be a lot that's not, though.
Well, what do you say to that? I mean, there's a lot of things. You can't say
It takes a
anything to that. I
village.
mean,
It
it's
takes
like,
a- It takes a
saying I'm
village.
absolutely perfect and I see everything every single day. We don't. We don't.
I'm not
And
saying
if
you
you're
do.
out there, we have that I Am Care system. We ask people to, log in, put your information in, let us know. And we're responding to all of that stuff, and we're very reasonable with the timeframes that we're getting out to do things. And I do drive around every day, in the morning, late in the afternoon.
You gotta keep your eye on the road.
People's homes.
Walking
I
tour.
do the hands-on, I do the walk, talk the talk. In some cases, like you said, the handicap ramps, I gotta be honest with you, all the driving I do, I didn't see.
Oh, you're driving.
But I know I drive, but I drive paying attention and looking. So I go to all the parks, I look at stuff.
What about the dog park? Have they de-weeded that in the last month or so? They going in with a rake and maybe loosen up the soil, get rid of the weeds?
Don't know.
They brought in more sand, that I know, because I had went down there myself, that park, and I saw the underlayment was coming through
From the dog park or from the walkway?
in the dog park.
The other day I was in there, there was all weeds growing along the fence and all over the place.
I think, can I just say something? I think all the sand is now down by the bathrooms
Yeah, it is.
from the rain the other day. It's a mess down there.
Okay, all right, I know with the storms and all the rain we've had, it has been difficult for our DPW to keep up with all the weed whacking and everything. Last week, they lost 4 days that they couldn't be out there, so they are trying diligently to get out there and get caught up.
The lawn's growing like crazy from all the rain.
Sometimes you gotta do jobs in the rain outside, that's what, give us the rain slicker. I don't know. I worked in schools, when you had to be outside cutting the grass for the football game, you were in the rain. Whatever you needed to do to get that completed, that's what you did. It wasn't like, ooh, it's raining. You did what you had to do.
Thanks for your comments, Phil.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Do we do an executive
Or
session?
actually, yes, we do, we need to go into executive session. So could I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
Motion to go into an executive.
Second,
Again, for personnel.
for personnel contractual issues. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, appreciate your time.